Do we remember that rumor about the Sharks willing to trade anyone not named Tomas Hertl? Names were gathered about good assets for teams to get, like Timo Meier and Mario Ferraro and ERIK KARLSSON, which is interesting because that's a guy who's been part of several rumors recently, and one of the teams rumored to acquire him was the Edmonton Oilers. Now, this was a rumor that was discussed for quite some time, but now it seems that this trade is most likely not going to happen. We have Frank Seravalli of Daily Faceoff telling us that those rumors in a nutshell are just not true. In fact, the Oilers are not interested in KARLSSON and that they would turn down trades for him, which is actually kind of shocking when you hear it because KARLSSON is playing like his former self. I think I made a few videos about it, but look at the guys he's ahead of in points. Currently, ERIK KARLSSON has 64 points, and that's more than Matthew Tkachuk, Jack Hughes, Mikko Rantanen, Sidney Crosby, Kirill Kaprizov, Mitch Marner, Elias Pettersson, Steven Stamkos, Austin Matthews, Alex Ovechkin, and Nathan MacKinnon, just to name a few. He's playing extremely well, and it sucks that the Sharks are even considering trading him when he's doing this well, and it's more shocking to see Edmonton deny it when they want to boost their defense and get rid of Jesse Puljujarvi. Seravalli was talking about a report from TSN's Darren Dreger, where Dreger put it out there that the Oilers may try to acquire KARLSSON from the Sharks, and we had Seravalli responding with, quote-unquote, "These are illegitimate rumors near as I can tell them," end quote. He also said that the whole rumor was news to the Sharks, implying that they never even heard or even thought about the Oilers getting KARLSSON. He later says that KARLSSON's contract is impossible to omit and would hold no sort of value at this current stake, despite KARLSSON being the Norris favorite this season. He adds on that teams are probably not going to return the Sharks anything valuable regardless if salary is retained or not. Then Seravalli really shows the low levels of interest by Edmonton with a game of who says no. He acknowledged that according to a legitimate source, if the Oilers and Sharks were to work out a potential deal where they see KARLSSON at 50% retained salary to Edmonton in exchange for Jesse Puljujarvi, the team that would say no, believe it or not, would be the Edmonton Oilers. I'm sure you guys would have figured that out by now based on the thumbnail, title, whatever, but isn't it still kind of surprising? Arguably the best offensive defenseman this season and one of the best of all time getting traded for a former 4th overall pick that's been struggling recently? A guy who's lost trade leverage and lost confidence? Puljujarvi himself said that he doesn't even think he belongs in the NHL, which is really sad because he's an extremely likable guy. Definitely a fan favorite, very humbled, very humorous in my opinion. It just sucks to see him be like this, but nonetheless, how are the Oilers not thrilled with this trade? Moving a player who has no confidence, won't do that much right now, and maybe add a first-round pick or a guy with a small cap hit to the trade, and you're getting yourself a top-tier defenseman who could very well be an MVP candidate this year. Sounds like a massive steal to me. But maybe if Edmonton was really willing to say yes to this trade, they would realize how massive ERIK KARLSSON's contract is, and that they may need to move a player, specifically a defenseman, out. I think a really good suitor for them would be BC native Tyson Barrie. And now hear me out, Oilers fans. I know some of you will be freaking out, but his $4.5 million contract would be out the books, and that could certainly even out the playing field. I think that even if the Oilers were to retain some of Barrie's salary, they would come out on the plus side of the salary cap. But if we are talking theoretically, there are some reasons why the Oilers could say no to this. First of all, it's very likely that the Oilers were very well not interested in ERIK KARLSSON to begin with. It could just be that they found him too expensive and maybe too risky in production and injury terms and said no to it as soon as they saw the name. But obviously, what we see with rumors, it just keeps growing and growing, so it became a huge topic, and now that's why I'm talking about it. But it's understandable if they don't want to lock into a player who may be injury prone. Second, it's also possible that they feel he's now too old and he doesn't belong with a much younger Oilers core. Maybe if the contract was 1 to 2 years like Mark Giordano's was last year, it may make more sense to get him as some sort of rental, but he's not at that stage. The Oilers would pile a risk for seasons ahead. Maybe a few seasons in the future we could see the Oilers adding a player who is much older than the current guys on the roster. Maybe the Oilers just missed the playoffs this year as, they're not completely locked in for a playoff spot just yet. The Kraken have 59 points, they have 57, and the last team out of the wildcard spot, which is the Minnesota Wild, they have 54. So it's pretty much anyone's game right now. But more so ever, maybe they just don't see KARLSSON producing like this again for another 4 or 5 years, which could be likely. It's a fair assumption, is it not? We could also hypothesize that Holland just can't find a way to work out the contract. If the Oilers move Puljujarvi out to get KARLSSON, even at 50% retention, that is a plus $2.75 million on the current cap. Not a very easy move, and dumping Tyson Barrie does not easily fix things. I think a lot of people can say that ERIK Karlsson is a bit overpaid, even though he makes $5.75 million, but if you take half of that contract, then it's not as bad. Considering what ERIK Karlsson has done in the NHL and how bad the Oilers' defense is, I'm shocked how Edmonton says no to this offer. Some may say that the Oilers should not give up Puljujarvi, but this is an argument that I've personally heard way too much about, and it's gotta end. We've been through this argument many times before, and it's just time he moves and has a fresh start somewhere else. There were no suitors last summer, and there will be less and less as the year continues. But how do you say no to getting rid of a struggling player for arguably the best defenseman this year? Makes no sense to me whatsoever. Remember that this whole situation is all just hypothetical. We know that Seravalli isn't making a report that there's a finalized trade. There's no word on Karlsson being open to a trade or being sent to Edmonton, and there's no word that the Oilers want Karlsson either. And we already know that when the trade was proposed, Edmonton said no. So as of now, there's no shot that we see a Karlsson trade to Edmonton. So let me know in the comments what you guys think about Karlsson or Puljujarvi. Otherwise, thank you guys for tuning in and have a wonderful day.